Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mark Skorka, and I'm president of Opera America, and I'm absolutely thrilled to invite you to the first salon evening we have of this season. And as you may have noticed, the first salon evening in our new National Opera Center. We're so happy you're here, and so happy that we are able to move this series into a hall that is appropriate for the quality of music we have performed over the last number of years in our Salon Series. I'm using a microphone because this is being live streamed and people are able to watch it on our website. So I want to say welcome to those who are here in the room and welcome to all people who may be watching from a remote location. The Salon Series is a reflection of Opera America's commitment to new work. Over the last 25 years, we have made grants to opera companies of more than $11 million in support of the creation and production of new American opera. It's a core commitment of ours, and we are just delighted to add to that program of grant making the Salon Series, which showcases the work of leading American composers and distributes it to a broader audience. We are thrilled this evening that we're featuring the work of a wonderful composer who has many works to his credit. You will hear an interview with him later on this evening conducted by our good friend Laura Lee Everett, who is the Director of Artistic Services here at Opera America. But Tony has contributed a song, and I wanted to share with you one of the things that we did recently in association with the opening of the new Opera Center. Tony did a song for this new Opera America songbook. Because at Opera America, we believe that important events should be celebrated with the commissioning of new artwork. So we decided we wanted to commission something for the opening of the Opera Center, but you can imagine as a member organization, how in the world do we commission one or two or three composers? So we came up with criteria by which we defined the relationship that composers have with us, and we invited 70 composers who've received grants from us and served on panels. We invited 70 of them to write a song for a songbook, celebrating the opening of a new home, the beginning of a new day, the turning of a page in life. 47 composers wound up contributing songs, accepting our commission. We commissioned them, and we published a wonderful score. It is published by Schott European American Music, and it's out in the lobby if you'd like to take a look at the score itself. We also produced a 3 CD set, the Opera America Songbook, and it has all of the songs that were commissioned for the project. It's a wonderful variety, and as I say, it's a great index of leading American composers, some who are in their 20s, and including Robert Ward, who turned 95 last month. So it's a real spectrum of American composition celebrating the opening of a new home for the opera industry. Tony will introduce the works himself and let you know what excerpts we are hearing this evening. Afterward, as I say, there'll be a brief interview with him led by Laura Lee Everett. We'll welcome your questions, and then a reception afterwards. So thank you for being here. Thanks for coming to the National Opera Center, and without further ado, our program this evening.
What you're going to hear first is from X, The Life and Times of Malcolm X, and it's actually Malcolm's Aria when he's just been arrested. He's in prison and he's being interrogated. This actually concludes Act 1 of X. Jarrell Milan, thank you.
mother mad. My truth is wrath, my truth could kill, my truth is fury. They always told me, you don't have a chance. You're a nigger after all. You can jitterbug and prance, but never run the ball. My truth told me, quit before you start. My truth told me, staying alive is all you've got. I've shined your shoes, I've sold your dough, hold your bootleg, played with hustlers' hope. But the crime is mine. I will do your time so you can sleep. I won't be out to get you on the street at night, but I won't forget any evil that's white. My truth is a hammer coming from the back. It will beat you down when you least expect. I would not tell you what I know. You want the truth. You want the truth. You want the truth. But you don't even know.
Thank you very much. There's Darrell Williams singing Malcolm's Aria. The next selection we like to do features one of my great long-term collaborators who's been singing my music since when I composed my first opera X in 1985. Of course, the great tenor Thomas Young, and this is Street's Aria from X, which is in Act 1, Scene 2. And Street came together sort of as an amalgam of different characters that were in the autobiography of Malcolm X. Street is the character who introduces Malcolm to the street life. It marks Malcolm's conversion from transformation from Malcolm Little to become Detroit Red. So by the end of this scene, Malcolm is now Detroit Red, and become a pimp and a hustler in Boston. So this is Street's Aria. I'm going to play piano. So Street's Aria from Malcolm X.
staying still. Stay cool. Put your fingers to the floor. Keep your feet wide apart. Throw back your head like you're not looking at all.
Thank you. Okay, then the next selection we're going to do is from an opera many of you probably haven't heard. It's an opera entitled Lilith that was premiered in 2009 in California. And the opera is about Adam's first wife, Lilith, who was born as Adam's equal out of the nostrils of God. And naturally, you know, they quarreled about sexual positions and their sexual relationship, et cetera. And eventually, in the opera, we have divorce court in the Garden of Eden. And in the divorce court, God decides to banish Lilith to the Red Sea. And later he creates Eve character, and the Eve character appears later in the opera. So the opera kind of takes place in two different time zones. One, the Garden of Eden, you know, kind of the beginning of mankind. And the second part is sort of a fatal attraction story today, when the Lilith character shows up at a bar where the Eve character is having a drink and asks if she can have her husband for a night. So that's the background for the opera. So in this aria, just as prior to her banishment, Lilith sings about her feelings, that she's a real woman. She's full of this emotion and of course some rage too as well. And it's sung by my wife Cynthia Aronson Davis. And so this is end of scene 3 of Lilith. Thanks.
These aren't mere eyes.
The next piece is from my latest opera that actually will premiere in full form in March of 2013 at UC San Diego in San Diego. The piece is entitled Lear on the Second Floor, and it's very loosely based on King Lear. In this opera, Lear is Nora Lear, who's of course a woman, who's a neurologist, and she discovers during a lecture on Alzheimer's, she kind of gets very confused and et cetera, and she realizes that she has early onset Alzheimer's or dementia. And in the opera, of course, she has 3 daughters who are vying for guardianship, and they all have different agendas. So it's sort of loosely based on Cordelia, Regan and Goneril. The fool is her dead husband, Mortimer. And Mortimer only appears to Lear. Lear is the only one in this who sees Mortimer. So this is this scene, Nora Lear is in an institution. She's on the second floor. She's being attended to by a nurse. So that's all I'll say. So, thanks.
Before the storm stone in an open where.
His cold hands will move my desire south under my skirt, on my thigh, as my breasts begin to swell like ocean tide.
The first kiss, the last kiss, the lasting wish.
Call me Dr. No, don't stare at me. I'm on the sinking floor, and the world don't keep on back. I close my eyes and wave my arms, lean over the roof tile. Don't dare stare.
The windows won't open, there are safety bars. You can't get away, you won't get far. I'm that man that cannot stare. Nora, come into the bath. Lord have mercy. Let's go, girl. Nora! Nora!
Come back out? No.
Are they out there? Yay!
I guess we
Come
have
on
to-
down, come on down and join us.
Yeah, if you have any, if you want to grill me over the coals, it's fine.
Exactly. Yeah. Here, just
Okay,
grab
I'll move the
these.
chair up.
That one right, I got
Use
one
the
here.
piano stool? That's good.
You can use the piano stool if you like.
I'm used to that.
It feels comfortable. Well, thank you so much, Anthony, for being our first salon in this wonderful new space.
Oh, it's
You
great.
like it?
Oh, it's beautiful. Thank you.
Did you like it? So my first question for you is that you said last night when you came in to rehearse, I'm just a jazz piano player. What pulled you from being a jazz musician into composing opera?
Oh, that's $1 million question. Okay. Well, it's funny because I started as a classical pianist.
Okay.
So first of all, and I sort of at the same time I began to find myself in jazz, but I was actually in Italy for a year in my 10th grade. And we couldn't bring my piano music with us on the trip. We had too much stuff. My father was on a Fulbright teaching at the University of Torino. And so I started going to piano stores in Italy and playing, so I would play in the stores like in a Steinway store, like Steinway C's and stuff. So I played Beethoven and stuff like that. And then I was at the same time, my parents got a record of Thelonious Monk, and I was entranced by it. So I started playing Monk tunes while I was in there. And I found I could play longer. They would let me play. So I could play for hours in the store playing. So that was great. And at the same time, the school I was attending was American school in Torino. I had this wonderful teacher who was actually, had come to Italy to be a priest. but he fell in love with a woman. And so he left the priesthood, left North American College in Rome, and he ended up teaching English at this American school, and he decided to have a philosophy class for 10th grade. So in philosophy class, he decided that the best thing to teach 10th graders, 11th graders, 12th graders, a small school, about philosophy was to start with the existentialism. Okay,
It's a
which
great
is great.
place to start.
Great.
in 10th
So
grade.
so
Perfect.
it gave me a complete existential crisis by the end of the year. but at the beginning, we read Birth of Tragedy by Nietzsche. And that is what introduced me to the idea of opera. Reading Nietzsche and reading about the idea of combining the Dionysian and the Apollonian. And when he described what German music could be, and at that point he liked Wagner. Later on he didn't like Wagner.
Later he
much.
didn't like it.
Especially when he screwed over his sister and all that. But anyway. but so the Nietzsche inspired me to think about possibly writing an opera, and I began to think about the fact that what he described as this opposition of this binarity of the Dionysian and the Apollonian could really transcribe easily into the improvised and the composed, the European tradition and the tradition of the African diaspora. So I began to think that what Nietzsche really was describing was American music and not German music, and this idea of combining those elements. And so that was the philosophical basis for what I was going to do. And at that point, I didn't have the tools at all to write an opera. So, but I was waiting for the right thing. I thought originally I would do an opera about the Invisible Man, from Ralph Ellison. That was my first.
Because that
idea.
wouldn't be difficult to cast.
Yeah, the Invisible Man.
Or
Well,
light.
actually, the Invisible Man. I mean, he's underground, so it would have been a great idea. And then my brother was in a play called El Hajj Malik, and he played the role of Malcolm X in the play. And I went back. It was at Yale, and so I went backstage, and Kip came up to me and said, "Oh, you have to write a musical about Malcolm X." And I said, "A musical? What? The Dancing Fruit of Islam? What is that?"
Yeah.
I can't do that. So I said, "Well, no, this is an opera.
Yeah.
This is like Siegfried.
Right.
This is like the tragic hero. This personified. This is a modern tragic hero." So that's when the whole genesis of the idea for X started.
Well, that was one of my questions as far as what inspires you, or how did you choose? How do you choose the stories that you want to compose to, or do they find you?
Some of them find me, and some of them I think about, or maybe they find me in different subliminal ways. Like X came my brother's initial idea, so that I ran with that. Under the Double Moon was conceived by Deborah Atherton. Tanya, my third opera. I had the idea. I had this vision. All of a sudden I had this flash. I was seeing an opera singer with an M16, holding a gun, and then I said, "Wow, that's really cool." And actually, it came about because I watched this production of Mozart's. Mozart that was done at Opera Theater of St. Louis when I was doing Under the Double Moon. And it was sort of done as like a laugh-in set kind of thing. But it's interesting how they cast the Pasha. It wasn't like a goofy buffo thing. He was very elegant and much more educated and sophisticated than any of the, Blanca or any of the other characters, or Constanza or any other character. So I thought about that. I said, well, how would Peter Sellers do this opera? I was started thinking about it. You mind wanders. Oh, he would do it as Patty Hearst, but it wouldn't work. It wouldn't work because I thought of all the reasons it wouldn't work. Then I said, whoa, well, I could do Patty Hearst. That's great.
You could do Patty Hearst.
I'll do Tanya. So that was the genesis of that, and I began to think about it. And I found Michael John Lacusa, and we ended up writing that. And Amistad was a piece I'd been thinking about for years. I mean, I proposed this to Beverly the day after X opened.
Wow.
And she said, "That's too depressing." I said, "No, it's not. Really, they get away. They get to go back to Africa. What's depressing?" Well, okay. But anyway.
What about Lear on the Second Floor?
Okay, Lear on the Second Floor came about. It was a kind of a fusion of two different things. One is I did incidental music for a Yale rep production of King Lear. And I was frustrated by how we did The Storm. I thought The Storm as being very musical and something I could use with processed sounds and all kinds of stuff, and not as just storm, So I was thinking about Lear, and then I saw this movie with Julie Christie that was about Alzheimer's, and she plays a woman who has Alzheimer's, and she's consigned to the second floor, and she develops relationships on the second floor and really forgets about her husband. Her husband's no longer the most important relationship, so the husband has to learn to let go. So, because she's happy where she is. So this kind of this tension this idea of familial tensions that due to when people have gone through Alzheimer's, and I have relatives who've gone through it, and so it's something in my generation we're sort of confronting with our parents and stuff like that. So I thought this would be really great to kind of put together the two stories, and then I thought Lear could be a woman who's actually a younger woman, more in the 50s rather than an older woman who has early onset Alzheimer's, who actually knows about, who's maybe a neurologist or something. And then I thought, she'd have, of course, would have 3 daughters, and the fool would be her dead husband. And I worked with a wonderful librettist, Alan Havis, who's a playwright, and he also did the libretto for Lilith as well. Mm-hmm. So it was exciting for me. And he had been working on a Yiddish Lear.
Oh, wow.
He had done a Yiddish Lear with Shelley Berman as Lear, which is really weird.
That's really
And it was all like, it was like a Yiddish theater reconception of Lear. So we both had done these, I'd done this like African Lear for the Yale Rep, and he'd done this Yiddish Lear. And then we ended up with our Lear with a woman, and it was very different. So that's how that kind of came about.
What is your working style? Do you have are you I get up and I write 8 hours a day and I do this, or are you locked down in a secluded place on a faraway island and get her done, or what is your style?
My style is late at night. I'm opposite of Phil Glass.
Okay.
Phil Glass wakes up. I used to have conversations with that we were actually working at the same time. It was like the end of my work day was the beginning of his. Mm-hmm. so I work in. It used to be when my son would go to bed, I could work from like 9 o'clock. But now he goes. I don't know when he goes to bed. But anyway, so I work from like 9 till like 4 or 5 in the morning.
Yeah, your going to bed time is his getting up time.
Exactly.
Phil Glass.
Yeah. So I work through the night because it's quiet. I mean, I think that's part of it. It's the quietest time of the day, and I can concentrate. And I like to be a little sleepy because a lot of the nervous anxiety is gone, and I feel like I'm open to ideas. And I usually work in a very intense way for weeks at a time. Doing that every day, and then I crash and burn, and then I don't work for a couple months, and I do it again.
Yeah. What's the first thing you do when you know you have a story that wants to be an opera?
Well, the first thing I do is I find the right librettist to work with, to work with the story. And in this case, with Alan Havis, because he teaches at UCSD with me, that's very easy. And sometimes, I fantasize. I think about at some point I will write my own libretto. I do a lot of right now, like the last song you heard. I wrote most of the lyrics for that because I wanted it to have the Jamaican feel and the reggae thing and do the weird rhymes and all that stuff. So that's something I can do. So I really have fun doing that. So I hope to do that more. But and then sort of work through what the story is and how the structure, and then I kind of improvise with ideas for the whole piece. So I kind of have an idea of what I'm going to do, and then I start from the beginning and work through.
What do you enjoy most about writing for opera?
Oh, well, everything. First of all, the fact that you have incredible singers singing your music. Second of all, the link between the drama and the music, and the fact that you're setting up and defining time. Defining how time flows. You could slow down time, or you could speed it up. You can do things so that in a way, opera is a deconstruction of drama from the beginning, because music intervenes and it does things to it's different from a play or different from a novel or different from anything else, and that's very exciting to me. Also because you can sort of think about what's behind what's going on. It might, in a political, social thing, it might be all the ideas that are behind what's happening, as well as what's happening, like an Amistad, et cetera, or an X. but in other things, it's about the juxtaposition of really telling the emotions through a dramatic scene.
When you the value of the instruments to tell part of that story too.
Yeah.
In jazz, you so much hear the instruments are a talking instrument or a storytelling instrument. Do you find that you incorporate instrumentation in your operas that is unusual to the general opera medium?
Well, I think because I have improvisers
Yeah.
in the orchestra at times, and I think for me, I like the idea that there's no fixity, that there's something happening that will be different every time, and also having the immediacy of the improvisation. So in X, there are moments when I wrote this thing where it sets up J.D. Perrin to do a duet with a bowed vibraphone, and so but there are moments that are set up so that it creates so it's also part of the drama, but it's also makes it more flexible. So it's not sometimes too much opera and music, theatrical music's on a clock, and I'm always conscious of that everything's tick tock. The lighting cues, everything is timed in a way to make everything rigid and fixed, rather than the fact that it can be, things can happen. Mm-hmm. So I like to make things happen. Have elements in it that aren't the same.
I think you just answered my "What are the challenges for opera that drive you crazy?" question. So we don't actually have to do that one. If you were going to give advice to a young composer, what is the first thing you would say to them, or what was the thing that you wish someone had told you when you started to take on opera as a medium?
Well, I had a great mentor in Rhoda Levine, who was the director of my first opera of X, and we had huge fights all the time. It was great, and because a lot of it was what's happening here, what's the drama about? It's not just about the music, right. And every musical thing has to be justified. So in a way, you start to understand the piece in terms of how every minute, there's no wasted time. Mm-hmm. And I think the thing that a composer has to realize is that it's not only just about voices and about story and words, but it's also about movement and time. So movement, how you move from one scene to another, how you move within a scene, what's the tempo of the scene, how do you create, what's the space, all those things. To allow the response, allow the music also to in a way to have sometimes play against what's going on, mm-hmm. or sometimes also expand things. But I think that the main thing, the first thing is to really think about how you are structuring time, how you're structuring the flow. And then, secondly, also then making text clear, setting text, because opera is not a democratic form. No. Like when you write chamber music, it's all kind of democratic. I mean, you have every instrument's supposed to have its thing, and mm-hmm. it's featured. Opera, there's a hierarchy. The voice has to be in front. I mean, a lot of contemporary composers don't understand that. And I listen to their operas, and I think they have no business writing an opera because they have no idea of they haven't dealt with. They don't want to deal with the hierarchical nature. Right,
and the balance of all of those instruments and voices together.
And that there's there to serve the singer and the drama, and I think that's a very different.
It's a different beast.
Different approach to music.
Yeah. You mentioned Rhoda. Who else were your influences or your teachers that you felt like really guided you to where you are with this, besides Nietzsche?
Well, Nietzsche and Charles Mackay. Yeah. Yeah, he was who was my teacher then. Other people. Well, it's interesting. I mean, some of them are just listening to stuff. I loved. Oh man, I don't know. I mean, I think growing up as a kid, I heard Kurt Weill every Sunday. Mm-hmm. My parents played three-penny opera every Sunday, and I was terrified as a child hearing that. Yeah, that was terrifying.
That's a scary thing to listen to every
Pirate
Sunday.
Jenny, oh my God, I was 5 years old, forget it. So, but I think that somewhere in me too. I mean, and certainly Berg, Schoenberg, Malmor, and then, Gershwin, with all the qualms I have about Gershwin, about Porgy and Bess. I love Porgy and Bess. I think Ligeti, and then Benjamin Britten, particularly Peter Grimes, which is was very influential to me. And when I was, certain operas like Amistad, when I created Amistad, I was thinking a lot about Britten and Moses and Aaron that were models for Amistad, as well as Duke Ellington, of course. Duke Ellington and Charles Mingus, Thelonious Monk. Yeah, but Ellington has a big influence. The Black, Brown, and Beige is more of extended pieces. Was a huge influence on me.
Excellent.
And I met him when I was a freshman at Yale, which was great. I mean, it was very funny. It was I went to a reception for Duke Ellington. We had this Duke Ellington fellowship at Yale, and they were setting up. Willie Ruff was setting up this fellowship, and so Duke played, and it was an amazing thing because Willie the Lion Smith and Duke did a duet with four hands piano, and then the band played, and Mingus was playing bass. It was unbelievable. And so I go to the reception, and I had this huge afro. I mean, I gave Angela Davis a run for the money. It was really wild, and all this stuff. Really long hair and stuff, until my mother cut it off. But anyway, that's another story. But anyway, so I had this long hair, and I was kind of shy, and so I go to the reception. I had the hair, and I'm sitting there, and Duke is across on the other side of the room on the table, and he points at me. He says, "You must be a musician. Come over here." So I went over there every time, started talking, just like that. I mean, I didn't know how he knew. I didn't know then. I was a freshman. I said, "Really? Wow. See, Duke Ellington says I'm a musician. Wow."
There you go. Unsolicited career guidance.
Yeah, that was great. So that was a big. He's always been a big influence. And Billy Strayhorn.
Yeah. Do any of you folks have any questions that you would like to ask? Lindsay has a microphone so we can hear you all clearly that you would like to ask Anthony. Oh, we have a ringer in the front.
How did you get the idea for Wakanda's Dream?
Oh, well, I have to thank Joan Dessens for that one. Joan, yay. Yeah, so she came to me, the Opera Omaha came to me with this idea of doing an opera about the trial of Standing Bear. And it was interesting to me because initially I had trepidations about it because I'd done Amistad, so I couldn't think of doing another opera with a trial in it. I was really apprehensive about doing an opera with a trial in it, so I was trying to figure out how I could do this. And also I was working with Yusef Komunyac, a wonderful poet, one of our great poets.
Wow.
And so Yusef and I were talking and trying to figure out how we're going to do. We talked about, we'll do about casinos and about, how the gambling and tribes, what's going on in tribes today, et cetera. So we realized we wanted to focus somehow on Native Americans today in telling the story of the Standing Bear. And so Joan had this wonderful idea of sent me to a powwow in Niobrara, Nebraska, which is like near the Missouri River, off the Niobrara River, in the northern Nebraska and it's kind of in the middle of nowhere in some ways. So we went with Hal and Hal France. We went to the
Powwow.
to the powwow, and while I was at the powwow, I met this strange woman who was at the gift shop who was Ponca, but didn't really look Ponca, but said she was Ponca, and then she told me that her son was this dancer who wore black feathers at the powwow, had sight, could see the future. And then she told me this story about, she was going swimming at a lake, and she walked by the lake, and their son said, "Don't go in the water's red." She was 5 years old. "Don't go in the water is red." So she steps in the water, she steps on a piece of glass, gets 16 stitches in her foot.
Oh my goodness.
So actually I became an aria in the opera.
Wow.
So I began to think about this idea of seeing Wakanda's Dream through the eye, telling the story through the eyes of this child with sight. And almost like a Greek thing, like Tiresias, be able to see the future, but you can't do anything about it.
Right.
Fate.
Like
and
the
Wakanda's Dream literally mean in Ponca, in Lakota, Wonka Tonka is the creation god. In Ponca, it's Wakanda. So Wakanda's dream is how the world was created. And so Wakanda's dream is really fate. So it deals with the issues of fate, et cetera. So this child who can see the future and sees what's happening and also sees the visions of the past. And actually the woman told me that Standing Bear was buried in their backyard, stuff like that, which probably wasn't true. But and then also that her son heard voices and spoke to people, voices.
Wow.
So this idea of dealing with entering in the past through the eyes of this child, and then that he can't act, he can't save his father, who's depressed and an alcoholic and has trouble dealing with and cursed by what he calls the white coyote. So this was we developed with Yusef, and it was amazing odyssey working on the piece.
Wow. Any other questions, folks? There's two in the back.
You mentioned that you were working on 2 music theater pieces as well, and I'm curious if your approach to musical theater is any different than your approach to opera.
Yes, I would have to say it is very different. First of all, it brings out the songwriter in me, but now I'm finding that because I wrote music theater, it's influencing how I write opera. Because now coming back to opera, I like for example, that last piece you heard, I feel comfortable putting in a song. I use songs in the opera, like something. And something when I first started composing, I wrote songs. I mean, I remember when I was at Yale, I was a student, and I decided to write a song a day, and I could do that. I could write a song a day. Okay, just write a tune. Okay, so in a way, it's kind of home for me. And so doing music theater pieces, and then also I love in the particular pieces they deal with. One is about the McCarthy era in 1940s, and one is about the life of Elvis Presley. So it has specific time, place, musical ideas that create those time, place, and circumstances. Memphis in the 1950s, 1954. Then New York in 1947. So it has strong musical connotations. So, and I do musical research in a way that I check out music that they may have heard, et cetera, and then allow that to, I use that in how I create the music. So, sometimes I come up with really weird hybrids, like doing the Elvis thing. I wrote this one song that was, I was thinking it was supposed to be kind of like Kitty Wells or, kind of older country style, there's certain kind of country style, or even more modern stuff like Patsy Cline stuff. But then I found that I was using monk harmonies in it. So I found that this juncture of Thelonious Monk and country, so it created a kind of bizarre thing, and I realized that it really worked. It really worked, and also made something that was completely unlike Thelonious Monk and country, but something that still was a song. And then, also, and the Elvis one, I thought, I listened to lots of music, all, early Ray Charles, all the stuff that Elvis was all the stuff that influenced Elvis, from Big Joe Turner to, Wanda Jackson to, the early rockabilly stuff, and then to, then also the country, Texas swing. So the father is based on kind of Hank Williams, musically. The mother is based on, Patsy Cline and Kitty Wells. This kind of, and so I could kind of embody the characters. And then the Colonel Parker, because he was Dutch, he wasn't even American. He was a legal immigrant. So I made him like an opera singer. Like that Bryn Terfel can play that. It would be great. It would be great because it's like, and he's this powerful kind of figure, but it's like it's very different musical language. So as a musical, it's pretty strange, but that's fun. And then the Shimmer musical about it takes place in the beginning of the McCarthy era in 1947. And actually, it's based on a Sarah Schulman novel called Shimmer, and she did the book, and Michael Corey did the lyrics. And that's very interesting, sort of about a woman who's a lesbian who's trying to find her way in New York, and then an African-American young playwright who's trying to find his way in New York. And then she ends up sleeping with the African-American's wife, and it's like really out, it's sort of the background of it is this theme of the potential of liberation. You know, the armed forces were integrated in 1948. You know, the beginning. This idea of this impending social revolution that's yet to be completely fulfilled.
Okay. We had one other question from the boss.
Hey, Mark.
He's the boss. Hey, Tony.
Yeah.
You've worked with librettists who have been playwrights, poets, lyricists. Do you think about which verbal partner you want given the subject matter? And does the different kind of text, whether it's a lyric, a poem, or a playwright work, does it change your music?
Very much. I mean, I think that's a very interesting question. I think it's a fundamental difference. I mean, working with a poet, working with a playwright. For one thing, with a playwright, the dramatic structure is there. The form, the idea of, you know, what's going to happen, where it's going to happen, and the sense of timing and structure, that's great. What you have to do with a playwright is to say, okay, all the stuff you never say, an actor would never say, the internal stuff that you would never, that comes through acting, now you have to say it. You have to expand it. You have to say, okay, these moments where actually the backstory, you have to use the backstory that you might use in writing in a piece, use some of the backstory in creating the libretto. So sometimes I have to expand things because you don't want an opera that's all dialogue, you know, like a David Mamet piece or something, you know. I mean, so you just like, you know, bing, 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 you know, you can't just go, you know, I mean, that would be boring. That wouldn't work at all. And so, yeah, and also the fact that you can overlapping things, all that stuff. So there's there are ways of, so that's one, that challenge. With a poet, it's a different challenge. The different challenge is to, first of all, that each character has to sound different. It can't be the poet's voice all the time. And that's pretty interesting because sometimes it's the greatest poet in the world. Mm-hmm. And they write, but it's a kind of voice. I mean, every character can't have the insight to speak in the most elaborate metaphor, you know? So this idea, okay, now, so sometimes when I was working with it, I have to crude it up. I have to do something to make it more blunt and direct than they would ever do. Because in a way you have to break, for the drama's purposes, the language has to be different. And you have to delineate character by language too. And that's very, very interesting. I mean, that would be an issue if you did Dryden or something, you know, or any poet. So, and then lyricists, I work with, it's very interesting, work with Michael Corey and Michael John Black-Cusick, because they're both originally composers. And that presents a different thing because they could actually put words to the music, which is like, you know, Aria or Gershwin or something like that. So that's a wholly different thing. So, for example, if we're doing revisions, Michael John would just say, oh, you know, that didn't work, and he would put new words to the music and it would work. Yeah. I mean, that's great. I mean, that's great. And that's hard to do, because that's something a lot of times I would have to do, you know, to put words to music. I mean, in the way that I would want to do it. So so it's different working, and I think also the nature of the story, whether it's whether it's a very dramatic story or something that's set, you know, in a certain way, or whether it's more has more expansive language. I mean, that's all to be considered. I was working on I wanted to do with Michael Corey. We wanted to do Suddenly Last Summer as an opera. And it was very, very interesting. You know, we never got to do it yet, and also dealing with the Tennessee Williams estate is another story. But one of the things that attracted me is that I said to Michael, well, you can write Sebastian's poem. Maybe we can actually have someone sing Sebastian's poem, you know, which would be weird because that was a closeted world, and Sebastian never speaks in the production. So that was interesting.
Excellent. Well, I would just like to thank you again so much for coming to do this evening. It has been a thrill to have you here to christen the hall as our first Salon Series. Thank you so much as well to Thomas and Tamila and Cynthia and Jarrell. I invite you all to join us out in the lobby and continue to ask Anthony and everyone else questions and have a little refreshment.
Oh, I'd like to introduce Mark DiChiazza, who's directing Lear on the second floor. He's here.
Oh, excellent. Welcome.
And he would have lots of questions, but then I wouldn't be able to answer them.
Thank you all so very much.
Thanks.